Hey there, you, me, and DC fans, and welcome if you are new. I am the stepson of Krypton,
Mantis.
and today we are discussing Justice League Unlimited number 8. This is part 6 of the We Are Yesterday. This is wrapping up a saga that has gone on that we have been following. Hopefully, you've been following along with us here.
Oh my god.
Mantis.
Eight
What?
months. I just realized it's 8 months of this.
We weren't doing anything else, anyways. Sad to say. No. It's been a lot. Time has been flying when you're having fun. So, are you ready to have even more fun and get on into issue 8?
Oh yeah.
All right. Guys, before we go ahead and get on into the issue, I just want to take a brief moment and talk about Patreon. We don't have one.
Please.
So,
We need to
enough
get
said
one.
on that. All right. Let's go. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get on into this issue. Although I do want to say real quick, Mantis, it feels like we haven't done a video together in a while because we've been doing a lot of solo projects. Hopefully, you guys have been following along with that in the whole absolute universe because I get the feeling we're getting ready to intertwine some things based off of how this goes. So,
Previously on Justice League Unlimited.
Airwave has scattered our heroes across time and space. Grodd has shown his true colors to Airwave, who now struggles to bring our heroes back together to fight Omega Grodd. Or Gorilla God, however, he kind of refers to himself as both, whichever you prefer. Now, let's go ahead and check on in with the battle already in progress. All right, so this issue opens up with the battle ensuing and Grodd providing us with a little narration about how he's viewed mankind as a blight on this world and how gorillas were the rightful inhabitants of the planet, and he sees himself as Gorilla God. A little grandiose for my taste, but hey, it's you do you, Grodd.
Villains always do that, though. I mean, they do.
Well, yeah, I mean it's the common villain trope. You got to do that, right? But
Yeah.
Gorilla God. I mean, maybe he can be God of the gorillas. That's fine.
Although I will say there is one thing he hasn't done yet, and that is tell everyone his plan before he does it. So
True. That is the have a long monologue where you reveal a plan while the heroes get in place to basically go ahead and take you down and make your plan.
yeah.
Yeah. So now the interesting part I think on this next page is we see the battle and everybody's fighting. We also get to see a different Robin than we've seen in Justice League Unlimited so far. We get to see a different Green Lantern that, in my eyes, because you see the purple, I immediately think of Abin Sur. We see
Mhm.
Jonah Hex, and not only Batman Beyond, and I just call him Batman Beyond because it's the Terry McGinnis Batman. And I don't know what else
Mhm.
you're going to call him because clearly we got our
Clearly,
short
yeah.
sleeve Batman in there too, fighting Joker. So we've got multiple heroes. So we kind of you get the idea that as Airwave brought the heroes together, he brought them from some different times and different timelines as well. So we go back, we see the Legion of Doom again, but the interesting note is if you look at the bottom fighting Bizarro, we see Superman Blue. So that is an
Hmm.
interesting one. That
I didn't see.
again, do what?
I said I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so that's Superman Blue from a completely different timeline. It's like Earth 167 or something, where he had basically tried to use kryptonite in this machine or some kind of derivative of kryptonite to enhance his intelligence, and he actually ends up splitting off into two different Superman Red and Superman Blue. So we get to see Superman Blue here, but I think the cool thing is we see Grodd blasting out some Omega beams from his eyes.
Hmm.
So then we flash back, and lo and behold, it's that little shit Airwave. And he's tried to talk to Red Tornado, but things. Red Tornado was like, "Hey, you betrayed us," and the comms are kind of cutting in and out with good old Red Tornado there. And then, of course, he gives Airwave gives him the little speech of, "Oh, I was betrayed, and I was led astray, and he offered me candy. That's the only reason why I got into his van." So Airwave finally Tornado was like, okay, seems logical. But Airwave's kind of running out of power here. So Tornado tells him, hey, take it from me.
Which I'm glad I'm looking at this panel you have here. I thought my comic book, like the print was messed up on it because when when the bubbles when Red Tornado is talking, it's all kind of messed up. I was like, did my comic book get messed up in print? But no, that's apparently
You
how it.
run out of fucking ink while you were
I
doing
know,
this damn thing.
I
It's
know.
like, what the hell? Now, as the battle ensues, we see yet another Robin, and he's wearing a little bit too short of shorts for. I don't think a dude should be wearing that short of shorts. Uh,
Yeah.
and we see a different Aquaman. He's kind of more like barbaric looking. And they're discussing Black Manta and how he'll do anything to hurt Arthur, including apparently on here, nixing a bunch of. I won't say the exact words of
Don't do
over
it.
there
Yeah,
because
yeah,
YouTube will get mad at us and they want to
yeah.
block everything. You know, I'm just reading what the comic said. They still will hold me accountable for it,
Dang younglings.
right? Fine for Anakin, but
Yeah.
whatever. So we switch back to now we see Grodd and he's talking with Pythoness, and she's complaining because she thought Airwave was dead. You're preaching to the choir, sister. We thought he was dead like 3 times throughout these 8 comics here.
Yeah.
And she's complaining obviously because, thought he was dead, that he also seems to have brought back all these heroes as well from the different eras. And that's where we switch to, we see Jonah Hex come in, we see a Batman, and we see what I thought was cool. I thought we were going to get to see a Robin get obliterated
I
by
know.
some Omega beams, right? Although it's still unclear at this point because we see the Omega symbol on Grodd's head and we see the Omega beams coming out, but like I don't know at this point. I don't think we, as readers, know, like, are they as powerful as Darkseid's? Because with Darkseid's Omega beams, there are very few beings that can stand up to a full blast of the Omega beam. Superman being one of them. Robin, however, is not.
Mhm. No, I mean he gets
And
killed with a 45. Not to be
it,
Omega beam.
dude, he'd get killed if somebody else near him got hit with the Omega beam.
Yeah.
From like a residual Omega beam, he's going to get killed. However, we see him look like he's kind of phasing out a little bit too, because the beams just kind of go right through him and past him. So he's kind of phasing in and out. And then, of course, we get more heroes showing up. We get some Teen Titans going. We get some Mr. Terrific. We get a little Metamorpho here, Plastic Man. And then, of course, we see Metamorpho going. Bizarro's going to go help save Pythoness, and he jumps right in front of her magic and just gets electrocuted himself because
It's it's so funny because I mean I don't know if everyone who's watching this or knows Bizarro, but this is like on par, not even just in this comic series because he did kind of something similar, the last issue, but like he does this stuff. He's like it, he tries to help, but he just fumbles it. Like he's jinxed. He's just an idiot moron, right? And yeah, here I like this because it reminds me of like I don't know if you guys, it's an old movie, but if you've seen The Fly with
Jeff Goldblum.
Like Fly. The Fly. Is Teddy a cinephile? Goldblum. Goldblum!
Jeff Goldblum, it's like a mutated, like gene spliced deformity, or something newer, maybe Galaxy Quest, which is a great movie if you've not seen that with Tim Allen.
Yep.
Yeah, when he tries to beam them up to the ship with the thing, and he tests it on one of the little animals, and it pops in there, and it's inside out and shit. So it's kind of what it reminded me of, and he's like, and then yeah, Grodd's just like, enough. It's good stuff.
No, he's like, silence.
Sorry, I did my Grodd voice there. All the heroes showing up kind of put him in a little bit of a bad mood, and you see like his help is what I feel like I have at work with sometimes, right? Like I'm just like, you know what, silence. Like this is not my circus, not my monkeys. That's what he says, and I feel you, Grodd. I know it's hard to find good help.
Hey, Grodd's got some good one-liners in this, though. I will say that he does have some good one-liners.
He does have some good one-liners. So we finally see it, and he's getting pissed, right? Because you obviously this is what he's got to work with, but he's got Pythoness there giving him a little bit of juice, giggity. And he says, finally now with, obviously he's got Omega energy. He has his natural ability, as well as he has Martian Manhunter's power still. And with her kind of juicing him up, finally has the ability to achieve what he's been seeking this whole life, which is Planet of the Apes.
Oh, shit. There goes the planet.
No, it is literally the extinction of mankind. And then we kind of get this wide shot because we see this massive explosion on the watchtower, and it kind of goes to this wide shot, and we see this basically Omega symbol out of the aerial. I say aerial, it's in fucking space, but you know what I mean, of the watchtower.
It's fucking
And
awesome.
we see that Omega symbol. That is awesome. That looks really cool because we see the Omega energy coming to help kind of give that final look of the Omega symbol.
Yep.
So just try it. We hear Superman. I say that we don't fucking hearing anything, and I heard it in my head though, so I guess that's fair. Superman says, and then we see all of our heroes. And when you look at this panel, like that's all of our actual regular heroes. I feel like that's all the ones that are tethered to this time and this universe.
I agree.
Even a not so dead Airwave looking all green. He kind of looks like the little fairy from the Absinthe on
Kind of, yeah.
Euro Trip. That's what it reminded me of.
I'm not feeling a goddamn thing. This absinthe is bullshit.
Grodd being Grodd, he's Gorilla God now, right? He's casting aside any idea that the Justice League is any threat to him. After all, he is power. He is Omega. See, that's straight villain trope. Like, that's exactly the line, because who else talks like that, right? And then Superman's quick to point out that Grodd still has John's powers, right? As well on top of his normal powers and the Omega energy. If we queue up the old Atom Project, we see they're gonna take care of that problem here, because they're like, oh hey, if you've been following along, we haven't done it yet, but if you've been following along with the Atom Project, you know that they're working to perfect ways to get the powers out of the people they're not supposed to be and back into the people that they are supposed to have powers. Now, seeing the entire league there, including but not limited to Superman, Pathinez is like, well, I'm out, man. I'm out. Like, this shit's getting too real. So she leaves, and Joker kind of is making a comment about how they're dealing with the baboon. He's gonna peace out as well. But as soon as he turns, boom, he runs into several of the Batman, heroes. And we see a couple of different, we got Robin there, we got good old Batman Beyond, Harley Quinn, and good old Batman Beyond there, good old Terry McGinnis punches Joker smack dab in the face.
Kapow!
Right? Bam! So, as the fight rages on with Grodd, Airwave is leaking or bleeding Omega energy, right? And then he's realizing that they're still linked, because we see Grodd, and as he's fighting again, he's just swirling with Omega energy. So we flash back to what the Atoms, the Atom Project guys, they're working on. They have the machine to give John his powers back. We see John coming into frame. And in doing so, they believe that Grodd will not be able to control all of the Omega energy without that psychic boost from John's powers. Grodd screams. He's losing the psychic powers. They're returned to their rightful owner. They go back to John. And John tells Superman and Wonder Woman, hey, he's vulnerable right now. Pull no punches. Although, like, you may probably still want Superman to pull his punches. We don't want another Harambe on our hands, right?
Yeah.
So you can't go killing the gorilla, right? So Superman might still want to pull his punches just a little bit. All the while, Harley's noting in frame there that good old Airwave isn't looking to, like, he's doing a little rough, right? Because we see he's basically being consumed by Omega energy. So after everything that Grodd has done to Airwave, he wants the last punch, because he says, no, this one's mine. And he goes and boom, punches Grodd, and leads to this massive explosion. We see a bunch of green, we see the Omega energies, and we see Superman kind of helping block some of the other weakling heroes, Robin, from getting hurt. Then, as the smoke clears, the team's taking some time to assess the situation. We see Grodd in some nice Green Lantern energy shackles. And it's what we don't see, or rather, who we don't see, is Airwave. It
Yeah,
is-
I have a feeling he's probably not dead again. Um, although I don't know, I guess it's hard to tell in this. Also, I guess are they did all of that just like crash down to Earth, or are they still on in the watchtower that's completely destroyed?
I From the look of it, I think it's the watchtower still. It does kind of look like they crashed onto Earth, but maybe, the explosion with the Omega thing sent it to, because you don't really get any info on that, right? But I'm
Yeah,
gonna assume the only problem I have is like where you see good old Jonah Hex and Superman Blue, that looks like ground and not the
yeah.
metal of the watchtower. So, you know, and I don't know, like the panel where you see Superman and Batman's helping him up, that looks like, you know, there's some stuff in the background, right, that looks like scenery, not, the
Yeah.
watchtower. Maybe it did. Maybe all that around there is the watchtower crashed down. It could have
That's
been.
that's what I assume. I mean, if it's still in space, they're leaking atmosphere. They're all gonna die. Or I guess maybe not, because if the whole thing crashed to the Earth and none of them died, I guess it doesn't matter. It's comic books, you know. It's they just they happen to survive.
If it survived a re-entry with, and they're all that's the worst that happened to them is that there.
Uh,
Um, it's weird though because you got to figure there was a big ass explosion when Grodd kind of fired off, the Omega energy, and then what just happened with Airwave. So, more than likely it just crashed down onto Earth. We're gonna go with that because even in the panel with Superman and Robin, you can see what looks like ground, and it's kind of all just almost
mhm.
deserty, like the hard rock deserty, cracked. So we're gonna go with that, right? So we did see good old Flash, a couple of them really. Well, maybe he's just moving so fast. That's how the comic book has to portray it. But we see Flash, and of course, he's face to face with the monkey. He gets a couple of jabs in on him, making fun of him. Before we see Green Arrow talking to a Wonder Woman variant about what the big boom was. And she's saying, therein lies the problem. The whole ordeal with Grodd actually has strengthened the Omega energy. It didn't deplete, it didn't just exhaust itself after all of that. And they've got several leaguers now trying to find a way to contain said Omega energy, as it is just, like between the Omega energy and the tachyon energy that they had used. And if you ask me, because we get this next panel where John's talking to Mr. Terrific. He seems to be taking Airwave's death, a little hard with the seeming loss of a friend, faux friend. Like he keeps bouncing.
Mhm.
Like he's a frenemy, I guess. Is that what the kids would say? A
I
frenemy?
guess. I guess.
Like he kind of believed, Airwave was a problem that he couldn't solve. So obviously that's kind of an ego hit for Mr. Terrific because he's so smart. So he vows to help find him because he wants to solve the problem. If you're gonna ask me, I feel like Airwave is inside the Omega energy. That's why
I
part
would.
of why it's becoming so volatile.
I agree, because that's what happened the last time, right? He got lost. He used it, or he got lost in the time stream, or whatever you want to call it. I would assume that that's kind of what happens here, especially when you see the very last panel of the issue, kind of what that entails. So I agree with you.
Well, since you went ahead and already spoiled it, we're going to go ahead and get on through this the second to last panel. Is we now see we come kind of face to face with after now Grodd has been stopped. They're managing to, or they're at least trying to contain the Omega energy. So we see Superman talking to an Aquaman variant, and he's basically saying, "Hey, okay, this is done now. We want to get back. You guys are the Justice League. You should be able to get us back to our times and homes." And of course, he's saying, "Hey, that now the Omega energy is so unstable that they can't send him home until they find a solution." And then I do love the shot because we see that Superman, but then when we get to the side panel to that,
Mhm.
we see the multiple Robins, we see multiple different Batmen, we see another
There's
Superman,
Superman's.
including the
Yeah.
Superman Blue. Obviously the Wonder Woman variant, we got a Flash variant, and we got a Harley Quinn variant, right? So it's cool to see all of them. But the interesting thing is the epilogue here is what Mantis was just alluding to. We see a figure falling through hyper time. Now, for those who don't know, like, so hyper time is, like, you have the multiverse, right? And there's usually that place like out like in DC Legends of Tomorrow, they have the where the time masters were, and it's outside time and space. Hyper time is basically that similar thing, but it's basically where all timelines converge, right? And we see a figure, and we were just talking about this before we started recording, like, that's falling into this hyper time here that kind of looks like Doomsday. And he's talking to this much larger figure that refers to himself as the World Forager, right? Now, interesting thing with Time Trapper here, and this is kind of what Mantis and I were alluding to as far as like with thinking it was Doomsday. Doomsday has been Time Trapper before, and when you see him, he is the same spiked looking, but he's not as big and bulky as we know Doomsday to be, hooded figure like that. So obviously, they're talking about that there's a disturbance in the Force.
No,
You
I think you're right, because now that I'm looking at this panel here, the World Forger, he sees this person in the robe fall down. He calls him Time Trapper. He says Time Trapper, like, oh, it's you. Like he calls. I mean, I'm like, again, I'm assuming that's Doomsday because he calls him Time Trapper.
Yeah, so he's Time Trapper, and the big guy's he's World Forager, right? So yeah, so this is the Doomsday. I have to believe this is Doomsday Time Trapper, right? There's no other that has to be Doomsday. I'm gonna go with that, guys. Let us know down in the comments if you think that is Doomsday as Time Trapper. So because he's saying Time Trapper, right?
Yeah,
So
that's what he says to him. Yeah,
although and it.
Sorry, I was going to say, it's funny. He says humans refer to me as the World Forger. Like, why?
Of all
He's not
of
a human.
Well, but you're also across time and space of all these different races. Why are you only worried about what humans call you?
I know, it's just weird. It's a weird way to talk, but
Well, and that dialogue gets a little tricky when you're trying to read it. You're like, how the fuck? Like, you spend 5 minutes trying to make sense of who's talking and who's saying what.
Yeah.
But like, to me, way I take it is he's saying Time Trapper. He's calling Doomsday Time Trapper, which again has been in the comics. He is the World Forger. Because the other thing is too, we're in hyper time, right? Whereas the world Time Trapper he's always existed at the end of time, which we've also know that in the comics that Doomsday at one point gets taken to the end of time. So I love that. I love this. I do love the fact that he's saying the disturbance in the Force is that the only thing it can be is that this universe, time in this universe is coming to an end. So
yeah,
definitely. Oh, go ahead.
I just was gonna say I firmly believe that we've not seen the last of Airwave. Yeah, so I think he's still alive. Although I would assume too, maybe we're gonna get to see there's a lot of heroes now in this in this or in this series. You've got your normal Justice League, and then you have the Teen Titans, a couple other variants of a couple different Flashes. It just it'd be interesting to see how hopefully they don't send them back in the next issue. That's all I'm saying. I want to see them interact a little bit and do some stuff. So
yeah, I think that would be really cool to kind of see that. And obviously they're building up to, and he even alludes to it there. He's like, a crisis is coming, right? And we know we've had Crisis on Infinite Earth. We've had Crisis of Two Earths. We've had so many different crises throughout the comic books that obviously we have to keep growing, right? So what are you doing now? Now you're going to bring variants. So now we got multiple Superman, Batman, Robins. We can do without her, it's fine. But Wonder Woman, or Wonder Women now. I don't even want to say that. Yep. Wonder Women. So I'm excited for it. I thought there was a lot, like, this one really picked up in comparison to some of the other Justice League Unlimited episodes. So, guys, let us know down in the comments, how did you feel about this issue? Are you excited for it? Do you believe that is Doomsday as Time Trapper? Because that's what we here believe, you, me, and DC believe. That's the Doomsday Time Trapper version, which I also just think is cool because I love Doomsday. It's awesome. Let us know. And if you have made it with us this far, you might as well go ahead and give the video a like. He's pointing to his dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on all of the other issues coming out with not only Justice League, but we are doing all 6 different variations on the Absolute universe. We are splitting those up to keep them a little bit shorter because you see how long this video is going to be. So, and we just also added Mr. Terrific right now just because it has just started. And since only reason why we're doing that one special is because we know he's going to play at least some kind of a part in the upcoming Superman movie, which we are getting ever so closer to. We are getting ready to do another video on that coming up. Mantis, do you have anything else?
No. Yeah, no.
Okay. I think we all got the point. He made his point very, very clearly. All right, guys, to keep this under your average feature-length TV show, we are going to go ahead and wrap it. That is going to do it for us on this episode of You, Me, and DC. Until next time, guys, we'll see you then.
Later.